ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
It is Tuesday, November 26th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can join the program by calling the Miller Lite phone lines, 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, hold true, great taste, only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. We have got coming up on the program this hour, Doc Holliday. We're going to get his highlights from his presser earlier this afternoon, as well as we're going to talk to the voice of the FIU Panthers, A.J. Ricketts. He'll be with us here shortly to talk about Marshall and FIU coming up Saturday, Joan C. Edwards Stadium. High noon kickoff. We'll be bringing it to you bright and early, starting at 9 a.m. That's right, tailgating 9 a.m. I expect to see some grills out there, some ham, some eggs. I expect to see breakfast tailgate action because more than likely I'm going to be at your tailgate taking advantage of it. So look for me. If not, come bring it to me. Either way, we're all going to have a good time on Saturday. Potentially final home game for the Thundering Herd. There is that outside chance that you're going to see Marshall play in the Conference USA Championship game. Thundering Herd could host if things fall into the right place. We'll see about that. That was a question asked about scoreboard watching later in Doc Holliday's presser. And I knew the answer to that already. I felt like stopping the press conference, actually interrupting Doc's presser and just say, hey, whoa, wait a minute here. Doc's not going to be scoreboard watching because Marshall and FIU play at noon. Southern Miss at Florida Atlantic plays 3:30. Marshall's got the first game in Conference USA. Charlotte Old Dominion, no bearing here, and that's at 2 p.m. Middle Tennessee at Western Kentucky, 2 p.m., no bearing here. Rice, UTEP, 3 p.m., no bearing here. Southern Miss at Florida Atlantic, NFL Network, 3:30 p.m. Herd game should be done at that point. Doc's not going to be on the sideline checking his phone. He's not going to be looking at the ESPN app going, okay, what's that score? Hey, I know we're trying to beat FIU here, but could someone tell me what that Southern Miss Florida Atlantic score is? That's not happening. But you're going to hear Doc's response to it, which I thought was brilliant on Doc's part. We have got, of course, his highlights from his presser. We're going to talk about this game with the voice of FIU, A.J. Ricketts, because a lot is on the line. Of course, it's senior day for the Thundering Herd. That means a lot of seniors going to be honored on the football field. A lot of pageantry there, as these will be the final times that these young men are going to be playing in a Marshall uniform. There's still going to be, of course, the bowl game, potentially a Conference USA Championship game, berth to get ready for. All of that's going to sort itself out. No matter the case, Marshall's going bowling. And I've seen a couple of bowl projections, and they both amused me. And I'm actually rooting for one of these. Now, I was checking out one of the projections that has Marshall playing, believe it or not, Marshall's going to play on the 20th. That would be a quick turnaround for the Thundering Herd if Marshall would play on the 20th. And that's Jerry Palm. Jerry Palm, he's running all the numbers. And right now, Palm has got SMU versus Marshall in the Frisco Bowl in Dallas, Texas, December 20th. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I could see Marshall taking maybe New Mexico Bowl. I could see Marshall maybe looking to get into the Boca Raton Bowl. I could see Marshall, I don't know, New Orleans Bowl maybe. That's Southern Mississippi and Appalachian State right now, according to Palm. And, of course, I've got it on great authority that it's going to be Marshall and Appalachian State. I've got it on super lockdown authority that that's going to be the game. Of course, I was listening to Inside Herd Athletics with Marshall University Athletic Director Mike Hamrick and your host, Mike Kurtner. So, according to, I think, Mike, And I'll leave it at that. According to Mike, that's it. That's your game. Marshall, Appalachian State, New Orleans Bowl. Just go ahead, book it now. Marshall versus Appalachian State, Sun Belt versus CUSA. Are you excited? Well, if it's Marshall, Appalachian State, I'd actually be into it. I'd be okay with it. But that's a bowl prediction here. And, of course, that's just one of many bowl predictions. Athlon, I was following their projections, and Athlon has it, and I might be rooting for this, actually. This would be perfect for me. I like this schedule. January 2nd, ESPN, 3 p.m. It would be SMU versus Marshall taking the spot of the SEC because won't be enough teams to cover. And so somebody's got to take that spot. Why not the Herd? That's one projection. The Birmingham Bowl, January 2nd. Do you think Marshall takes a game on January 2nd? I'm down with it. If Marshall does it, I'm completely down with it. Now, there might be a problem because Marshall plays Rice in basketball on January 2nd. I don't think that would be the deter. It's not going to say, look, we'd love to play football, but our basketball team's playing. I don't see that happening. There have been too many times where basketball and football played at the same time. So could it be the Birmingham Bowl? That would be interesting. And the opponent? SMU. SMU. Everybody that's projecting bowls seems to be gravitating towards Marshall and SMU doing battle. Let's do it. Let's just make that game happen. Marshall, SMU. Because right now we've got a shortage of bowl teams. There might be a flood of teams come in. But right now, you've got teams that are one win away. And here's the rule now. If you've got more bowls, which is what you got right now, than teams eligible to play in bowls, the next batch of teams you can pull from are listed in APR order. That's right, academics. Got to hit those books. So these are teams that are one win away. They're listed in APR order, which I thought was genius to begin with, to determine, hey, if we're going to take a team with a losing record, let's take the smartest kids. Boston College, if they can beat Pittsburgh, they're fine. Ohio, if they can beat Akron, they're fine. Kent State, they'll beat Eastern Michigan. They'll be fine. Nebraska, if they beat Iowa, they're going to be fine. Mississippi State versus Mississippi, they're going to be fine. Oregon State versus Oregon, okay, maybe not. But right now, you've got 8 ACC teams eligible. You've got 7 AAC teams eligible. You have 6 Big 12 teams eligible, 8 Big 10 teams eligible, 8 Conference USA teams eligible, 2 independents, that's BYU and Notre Dame. The MAC has 6 teams. The Mountain West has 7. The Pac-12 has 7. The SEC has 8. Sun Belt has 5. 72 teams. Got a few more slots to fill. And then next year we're going to get more bowls. That's right. We're going to get more bowls. So what do you do when you have more bowls than teams eligible? You add more bowls. That's right, more bowls. Because after all, what does a winning record mean anymore? Really, what does a bowl game mean? Bowl game does nothing for me. The matchups are okay. They're mediocre. Sometimes they're good. It just doesn't mean much to me. And you can give me the argument that it means everything to those kids to go and experience the adventure that they're going to get, the wonderful adventure that they're going to get because they get to go to a bowl game. And, you know, that's a strong argument. It really is. It truly is a strong argument. But are you telling me that because it's a great experience for these kids, that these kids who have a team that didn't win as many as they lost, that this is the reward for that. This is a reward. No, this is money. This is all about money. I'm going to delve into this later, but I want to turn our attention when we come back from break to Marshall's next opponent, FIU. We're going to be joined by the play-by-play voice of FIU Athletics, AJ Ricketts, when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank.
Well, it's starting to become a tradition. FIU and Marshall wrapping up the season against each other. This time it's going to be in Huntington. We'll have the game for you right here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Marshall coming off a disappointing loss, losing control of the East Division, hoping for some help. FIU, on the other hand, coming off a major win against crosstown rival Miami. FIU also being named the Reveal Suits National Team of the Week. And to tell us more about FIU, we are welcoming to the program now the voice of the FIU Panthers, AJ Ricketts. And AJ, thanks for joining us. I'm just curious.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Reveal National Team of the Week. Does Butch Davis get a new suit? How does that work?
I think he's probably set on suits between his professional career and his time at ESPN. But I'm sure she could celebrate and get another one. What a joyous week it's been down here. The national recognition and just the pride on campus certainly has been elevated in a couple of days since. So it's been a lot of fun. I know it was special for Butch. He's been telling folks, it was a top 5 moment for him and his coaching career, and he's had a lot of moments, whether it's with the Dallas Cowboys winning the Super Bowl ring or assembling the roster he did the start of the turn of the century against Miami. So it was a pretty significant moment for him in the program.
How does FIU build off of that success? You get a big win like that, you still need to face off against Marshall. Of course, you're going bowling again. This is really maybe a program-defining moment, just about.
Yeah, well, it's ironically timed. To tell you what, I wish we had a home game this weekend, and you could tangibly see, the impact that a win like that would make. But we'll see where hopefully the bowl game places us. I know 2 years ago when we were in Tampa for the Gasparilla Bowl, we had a great contingent that made the trip across Alligator Alley. But how do you sustain it? Keep winning, man. Keep winning. It'd be a lot of fun to see how far this can go with a win to end the regular season, with a bowl win, and then you got an entire off season of building up for whatever the home opener is next year. But it's certainly shining the light on the program. It's not just a win against Miami, but it's 3 straight trips to a bowl game potentially. So I think Butch is really starting to build not just a good team, but a good program down here.
Well, if you're going by Jerry Palm, you're going by CBS Sports. Independence Bowl, taking on North Carolina. I'm sure FIU's game for that. Yeah,
it's the fun time of year, man. The annual obligatory, Google search, bowl game projections, and seeing all the different places that you could end up, whether it's the Bahamas or Hawaii or anywhere in between. So I was actually at the Toyota dealership this morning, and while I spent 2 hours waiting for the routine maintenance, was looking at every single projection. I've seen Houston, I've seen Tampa. I saw that Independence against North Carolina. So it's a fun time of year for sure, but got to focus on this weekend first before any of that.
And that's going to be a big challenge for both teams. Marshall needs this win. If they have any hope of getting an East Division title, they're going to need some help. FIU could come in, play spoiler, to be quite honest, maybe a little payback. I'm sure they're not thinking about that in the locker room, but it's still there. I mean, these two teams got a nice little series going together with each other.
Yeah, it's another season with these two where there's some stakes to it, isn't it? And for us, the challenge is coming off such an extraordinary high. I mean, there's been big wins in the program's history. There's been big wins under Butch, but this certainly caps all of them. So to come off a high like that and still in the season strong, that's the challenge there. And against, obviously, Marshall and Doc Holliday and all his South Florida guys, too, and a lot of talent you guys have on that roster. They're going to be fired up as well, hoping that, FAU falls and can be a special Saturday afternoon for them. So you got a lot of dynamics working together this weekend.
Is there a lot of buzz for this with the players? I know with the Marshall players, they played against a lot of players on the FIU roster. Same thing with FAU. So it always seems the Florida guys get up to play the Florida schools. Is that in reverse as well? Do the Florida schools get up for Marshall knowing that Doc Holliday seems to live in Florida when he's not in Huntington?
Yeah, well, I think it just continues a trend the last two games for us. I mean, we played FAU 3 weeks ago, and half their roster, 3/4 of their roster are guys that our guys played with in Papa Winter in high school football, and obviously that's the same trend with UM. So it's kind of I'm sure a continuation of that. There'll be some post game pictures, maybe a jersey swap or two if the equipment guys are okay with that, if they allow. I don't know. I saw some guys trading jerseys. I don't know if they actually trade them or it's just for the picture, because I feel like with our programs we don't want to be buying extra jerseys if we don't have to. But no, I'm sure it'll be neat. But each guy's going to want the bragging rights, no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's also important for recruiting. Let's be honest. Marshall, if they're successful against FAU, then FIU. That's something that Doc Holliday can talk about. If FIU can continue this momentum, then all of a sudden maybe it's going to be a little harder to get some of those Florida kids to leave.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's funny you mentioned recruiting. I read an article in The Athletic this week. They were down on the sidelines, and as the game was wrapping up, one of our assistant coaches, well, actually Coach's son, Drew Davis, he was shouting out, "I can't wait to go recruiting. I can't wait to go recruiting now. I can't wait for our official visit tomorrow." I mean, they're fired up to hit the road, and hopefully for us, the win yesterday has some impact moving forward. I mean, we had a lot of recruits on the sideline. It was a home game for us, technically. I know there were about 80% UM fans at the stadium, but it was a home game for us. We were able to host more recruits because Marlins Park is a bigger facility than our home venue, and it was an amazing experience for them. So, yeah, big games, whether it's in conference play or what we had this past weekend, they all add up. It all is a big part of moving forward, and yeah, that's a good point. Doc Holliday loves coming down here, and Butch is trying to use the momentum of this past week to make a bigger impression when he visits this next high school.
Joining us on the program, the play-by-plays for FIU, AJ Ricketts. And I'm just kind of curious, was this Miami game finally the glimpses of that FIU team that we thought we were going to get early on this season? There were a lot of people who thought in league that it would come down to Marshall and FIU for the East Division.
Yeah, maybe it was taking a lot of the frustration out. The team will self-admittedly say, there's been adversity this year. It may not have gone according to plan. But this has been, starting with Miami, it's an opportunity for them to finish the year winning 3 straight games. And they did that. We end up at 8 wins, which is what we had in year 1 under Butch, and that's only 1 away from the school record. There's still an opportunity to kind of, end with the buzz that a lot of us thought would be accompanying the team throughout the year. But yeah, a lot of the preseason publications, the anticipation this year, there was a lot of it externally, right? The last 2 years, I think the confidence has been more so internal with the team. We had 4 or 5 win projections last year in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and then we get a program 9 wins. So this year, a lot of the talk was external, and then obviously didn't start too strong. But I think if we can finish with a couple of wins together, this senior class, this team can certainly be proud of this season, no matter what happened in the first half of the year.
Have you felt that it's gotten a little tougher in the East Division? It really feels like there's not one dominant team, and I don't know if that's good or not, but there's so much parity. It feels nobody can seem to get ahead anymore. It makes a weekend like this possible where you just look at the schedule and go, you don't know who's going to be the East Division and West Division champion until it's all said and done.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think we kind of expected, Lane to be back closer to where he was year 1 than where they were last year. So, you're going to get consistency out of FAU. Marshall obviously has been a standard of the conference for quite some time. Now Charlotte's starting to make moves themselves, with the club lid in the locker room after, and Will Healy, a young, dynamic coach. And so it seems like Charlotte is trending upwards. And then, of course, Middle Tennessee, they've held their own this year at times, especially against us, putting up 50 points in the rain. I think any one of these teams has the ability to have that big year, to have that elite year. But across the board, you're seeing a lot of consistency, and maybe ODU will have a bounce back year next year, and once they see the results of their renovations and recruiting classes and whatnot. But it's certainly interesting. Seems like there's a number of teams that have the opportunity to be a little bit step up from the rest, but across the board, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, and something else that's really been, I guess, worrisome for the Thundering Herd, but good for Conference USA. There seems to be a really solid quarterback every week the Herd's facing off against, and James Morgan's the quarterback leading Florida International. What can you tell us about him? Marshall's had to contend with, it seems like every quarterback can beat you on the ground or do something special.
Yeah, James isn't so much a runner. Our backups had a good game this year, Kalen Wiggins, in terms of his rushing attack. But James is more of a pocket guy that's able to get out and still make plays. But when he gets a pocket, when he gets time to throw the football, when he's not under duress, that's when he shines the most. He finally played a game without the leg brace. Had some leg issues earlier this year, but I think he's fully healthy now. And he was making play after play against the Hurricanes. He got 3+ seconds plenty of times. The O-line had their struggles this year, especially at the start, but they did not allow a single sack against Miami, who's one of the best defensive lines in the country. And there weren't that many QB hurries, honestly, either. One of the best games from the O-line, when James has a pocket, he can find his guy. And we're having some young receivers and some juniors as well start to stand out, even though we've been hurt in the wideout spot injury-wise. So, Morgan, he grew up in Wisconsin, big Brett Favre guy. He's got the mustache, number 12, a big Aaron Rodgers guy. And he's come down here in 2 years and really made an impact on the program. I'm glad he's healthy, and because he's capable of doing some special things when he is.
Yeah, you mentioned that Marshall's for the last few weeks been pretty successful getting after the quarterback, maybe not so much these last 2 weeks. And you look at that game against Miami and you think, wow, this kid might have all day to pass against Marshall if Marshall's not careful. And is that basically the bread and butter of this team as far as making sure that he's got time? I know on the ground FIU's pretty good as well, but it doesn't seem like the ground attack is where it's at mostly for FIU.
Yeah, but when the ground attack is able to get the game going, that opens it up for James, and that's cliche. You get your ground, get you established the run, you open up the pass. But against Miami, they shifted up some blocking techniques, did things a little differently than what the Canes had seen on film, and were able to go forward. Paul, last year against Miami, we were going backwards. We almost had negative total yardage at the half. And this year, we're able to get consistent, 2 to 4 yard gains and then break a couple 10+ yard runs. So we had a 23-yard run on 3rd and 19, and then drove the ball down the field on the ground a lot in the fourth quarter, capped by Anthony Jones' 37-yard touchdown dash, probably the most iconic run in school history. So, when Anthony and Napoleon Maxwell, when they're having solid games, that just opens it up more for James Morgan. But there's been games this year where we've just been able to do nothing on the ground, and I think Middle Tennessee in the third quarter was the greatest example of that. Sometimes it's felt hit or miss with the rushing attack, but recently, aside from that FAU Middle Tennessee game, I think it's done a little better.
Joining us on the program, he is the voice of the FIU Panthers, A.J. Ricketts, and FIU, the talk of the town, I'm sure, right? National Team of the Week, you get a Special Teams Player of the Week. There's a lot of buzz, right, for this FIU team, or at least they've stolen some thunder.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Paul. It's pretty cool to be around the program, right, when you feel it's going through a special juncture of the team's history. In 2010, 2011, things were rolling here. Mario Cristobal was doing a great job. They were selling out games, but it feels different. And it being against the crosstown rival. We had our coaches show with Butch yesterday, and Paul, I'll tell you, it felt like a mini college game day in there, man. It was at the Student Center. You had students packing the place. You had people taking off work. The cheerleaders, the band were there. It's been discussed on the Levitard show, which is obviously based down here. I mean, Butch was on the Levitard show. They've been talking about it all over the local hour. We had all our local affiliates on campus yesterday, talking with the players, chatting with Butch. It's caught the city's attention, and there's no doubt about that. And that's a pretty cool thing for a team that's typically been overshadowed. I think I'm just so happy for the FIU community, man. There's a lot of diehards out here too that sometimes get their eyebrows raised for wearing blue and gold as opposed to the orange or green or whatever it may be. But if this is what it takes for people to feel a little more validated in their school and representing their program, then so be it. It's awesome for the FIU community. They deserve it. These players deserve it. And I'm just really thrilled for them. They were having a great time at the talk show yesterday. The president was firing everybody up. Butch addressed the crowd. There's the biggest buzz there's been on this campus in the last decade. There's no doubt about that. And it was even FIU night, Paul, last night at the Heat game, the Miami Heat game, and I think that was pre-scheduled, but it was what a wonderful coincidence. FIU night, we had our mascot there, and they were giving out FIU gear, and just what a time to be alive if you're an FIU Panther right now.
It's like all of a sudden FIU was discovered by a whole portion of the population, right?
I mean, look, there's 50,000 students that go here between, in-student and online classes. You've got hundreds of thousands in the Miami-Dade community, and hopefully this catches their attention, motivates them to come out to games next year, follow them on the road games, come to a bowl game perhaps, and just represent their alma mater a little bit more. I tell you what, walking across campus yesterday from the parking lot to the talk show, I counted about 14 people wearing FIU apparel and 0 in UM or another school apparel. And that's not a ratio that's been usual here, but hopefully it's one that continues. People are proud to rep FIU right now.
AJ Ricketts joining us. He is the voice of FIU, and coming up high noon on Saturday. I'm not sure what the travel crowd's going to look like. You think we're going to have some FIU representation up here in Huntington?
Ooh, honestly, it's tough last minute. Thanksgiving weekend. I mean, you kind of know the routine for folks there. It's hard to make those last minute plans. I wouldn't expect anything crazy. You might get family members of a number of players that like to make that trip. I'm hoping we see a big crowd for the bowl game. But if anyone does make the trip to Huntington this weekend, they better pack a coat, because I think it's going to be under 70 degrees, and when it drops under 70, we feel it. That is tough for us to deal with.
Yeah, you like how when Marshall comes to Florida, it's all great, and then when the Florida schools travel, you get this kind of weather, which, wow, under 70, man, you guys are going to be suffering, right?
Break out the scarves, break out the North Face, the boots. I mean, I will vouch. I will. When you're down here all year and it's about 85 to 90 all year, something in your blood thins. I mean, your body acclimates, and 65 degrees becomes cold. Restaurants will bring out space heaters when it's 63 to 68 degrees, and I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. It's a surreal sight, but also I find myself very thankful that there's a space heater when it's 63 degrees down here, which I'm sure everyone listening in the friendly confines of West Virginia is scoffing at right now. But I think it's something that it's your body acclimates. Trust me, when you're around 85 to 90 all year. That's why we can't handle the cold.
Don't forget rain as well. 50 and rain.
Love it. That sounds lovely to me. From the press box.
Well, I hope they have the space heater for you up there. If not, we'll get you one. We'll get you one. Hey, you've got it easy. I've got to be on stage at 9 a.m. with the tailgate lot. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to be on stage for an hour, 9 a.m., and the tailgate lot opening up, and everybody probably over Fat Patty's or somewhere having breakfast, and so.
Well, kudos to you. I'll bring you a hot chocolate if I see you by the stage as you persevere through that.
Come on over. Yeah, we'll have fun, and I'll just wear a light jacket or something. I'll spot you. You'll be bundled up.
Yeah. I'm bringing my entire closet of sweats this weekend. Don't worry.
AJ Ricketts is joining us, play-by-play announcer for FIU. AJ, good talking to you. Thanks for doing this. I do appreciate it, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, appreciate it, Paul. Thanks as always, and we'll see you soon. Take care, man.
That's A.J. Ricketts. He's the voice of the Panthers, FIU, and he's going to be bundling up. Yeah, it's going to be so cold on Saturday. I would love to have that problem. 60 is cold. I would love to have that problem. When we come back from break, Doc Holliday, we're going to hear from him when we continue with today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
The Drive with Paul Swann. Marshall Athletic Director Mike Hamrick. He knows.
Paul's the best.
On ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, November 26th edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann, and earlier this afternoon had a chance to talk to Doc Holliday. His press conference ahead of the FIU game, and we've got the key highlights from his presser. And towards the end, I think Doc gives a solid response to a question that was asked about scoreboard watching. That's right. There was a question asked today if Doc would be scoreboard watching on Saturday. Even though Doc and FIU and Marshall play at noon, and the game I would be scoreboard watching doesn't even start till 3:30 p.m. So here are highlights from today's Doc Holliday press conference.
Obviously, FIU had a great win against Miami last week, so we're getting ready to play an excellent FIU team. This game means a lot of things I told our kids 18 reasons. Number one, 17 of those reasons are guys that are playing their last as a senior, getting honored here on Senior Day. Those guys gave a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to this program. It's important that we work really hard to send those guys out the right way. And the 18th reason is we still got a whole lot of football to play for. So got the opportunity to still win the East in the league, and we've got to go win this game. So I have a great week of preparation. Our captains that help us get that done will be Knox and Levi Brown on offense, Channing Hames, Amari Cobb on defense, and Marquise Couch. So those guys will lead us and provide great leadership this week. Butch has done a great job with that program. Obviously, anytime you play an FAU team or an FIU team, they got players. And obviously they got really good players. They beat Miami, Florida team this week who's bowl eligible. So they're coming off a big win. They'll come in here with a lot of momentum, and we got to make sure we're ready to go. So that's where it is. Well, I told you that they all want to be professional football players. So this week they are. They got nothing but getting ready to go play and taking care of their bodies and getting ready to go. So it's a good week for them. Had a big Thanksgiving dinner last night provided by Christ Temple Church, which is we've done that every year, just a huge deal. Our kids really enjoy that, and so they'll have a great week here and get ready to go play on Saturday. Well, they've all grown. I mean, a lot of them have grown. From Levi to I don't want to sit here and listen. Mention all or call out all 17 of them. You know who they are, but they're just all great kids. They've overcome a lot of adversity, and just proud of the way they've gone about their work. And there's some really good players that are going to get the opportunity to play here on Saturday. Well, I don't think there's any question. I mean, I think Carry-On's played really well for us, and the thing about junior college kids, and you guys have seen a lot of those guys around here. You get after their second year, you say, "Gosh, I wish we could have redshirted that kid because his third year he's going to be a really good player." And sometimes because they are junior college kids, you have to play them the first year they're here because of a need deal. But he was one that got that third year, and I think he's really improved as a player, and it's going to help him. Well, two running backs are both seniors. They're excellent players. Morgan's a senior. I think going in, I think him and the fine kid from North Texas were probably rated the two top quarterbacks in our league. He's a this time last year, FIU was playing for the championship. If they'd beaten us, they would have gone to the championship game, and Morgan was a big part of that. So, he's had an excellent career there, and he's a good quarterback. Well, we got to find a way to do that. We got to find a way. I thought a year ago when we played him, we got some pressure on him. When we played down there a year ago against him, and at some point, you got to get some pressure on him, because if he's able to sit back there and have protection, he's very accurate, and he gets the ball to the right people. So we got to find a way to hopefully get some pressure on him. No question. It's important to get everything back. Offensively, we didn't play well enough offensively, as you all know. So, it's important that we get back to work offensively, and you can't. It's hard to be one-dimensional. And unfortunately, we were a little bit this past week. So we got to get back to being able to do both, and I'm sure our kids will work really hard to get that done. Well, I mean, number one, you got to take care of the ball, and you can't turn it over 3 times, and of course they turned it over 3 as well. So you got to take care of the ball, and you got to be able to, at some point you got to be able to throw it and catch it in those situations. So you got to be able to try, work hard to get that done. Well, I mean, you just got to play better. I mean, we played, of course, one against FIU, in the last supposedly regular season game a year ago, and went down and played a Virginia Tech team and got beat. So he's got to play better and find a way to finish. I think it does. I think anytime you can get a big win over that's a huge win for FIU. And to go, especially right there in the city of Miami. So it was a great win for them, and a lot of our players are from down there. So there's no question it got their attention. And but FIU, I mean, they're bowl eligible and they're a good football team, and they won 9 games a year ago, and so they're 9, 10 games a year ago, so they're an excellent. This 3rd straight year they've gone to a bowl, So, Butch has done a nice job with that team, and our players know a lot of those players, so they understand that they're very capable, and we got to make sure we're ready to go. Well, anytime you play those guys, because we recruit that area so heavily that if you have the opportunity to, the FAUs and FIUs, it gives us an opportunity to go down there and our kids enjoy it. Our kids enjoy playing against those guys. But if you can have success against those teams, there's no doubt it's going to help you with recruiting. How do I do my best not to scoreboard watch during the game?
During the game, and in terms of relying on someone else to help.
I don't have any. I don't watch any scoreboard other than our scoreboard's the only one I watch. But I don't spend time during the game. I got a hell of a lot more on my mind than watching somebody else's score. I can assure you that. So I assume you're talking about during the game, and I don't have any idea what's going on with anybody else during the game.
How about relying on another program to help this team get it?
I mean, I guess what you're asking me, are we Southern Miss fans this week? Hell yeah, we are. Yeah. Yeah, Jay's my best friend right now. But no, we are. There's no question we're Southern Miss fans right now. But just like I'm sure Charlotte and FIU was Lane Kiffin's best friend. I'm sure that's who they were rooting for. So that's the way it works.
Is he a Southern Miss fan? You got that answer there. I mean, that's one way of beating around the bush, trying to figure out if you're a Southern Miss fan. Is say it. Hey, are you rooting for Southern Miss this week? That was the question I would have asked. Hey, Coach, here's an obvious question for you. Are you rooting for Southern Miss this week? Yes, I am. Doc Holliday's not scoreboard watching because, well, again, the Thundering Herd playing at noon. Southern Miss and Florida Atlantic playing at 3:30. Doc will probably watch that game after he's done with his. We'll wrap it up when we continue with today's edition of The Drive. ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Guests with Paul Swann appear via the Miller Lite phone lines.
We've got college football action tonight on television. That's right, it is MACtion, and you got Ohio and Akron, 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus, and then Western Michigan and Northern Illinois, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. Ohio needs a win. They need to become bowl eligible, and then that would put them into a pretty good spot because then that would mean they'll have a streak of 5 seasons in a row under Frank Solich, bowl eligibility. He is, of course, right now one of the winningest coaches in MAC history. They're taking on Akron tonight. Akron is 0-11, and it looks like they'll be 0-12 after it's all said and done. And then you got Western Michigan, and if a win happens Tuesday night for the Broncos, they go to the MAC championship game to face off against Miami. So if you're interested in such things, you've got it tonight. That's your MACtion coming up and on ESPN Plus or ESPNU. I know, Herd fans, I kind of like some MACtion now and then. You're playing on a Tuesday. I mean, come on. cut off work early. You go to the game. You play on a Tuesday. I mean, you got the rest of the weekend off, right? Right? Not feeling that? Okay, I'm with you as well. Herds on Saturday, high noon, taking on FIU. Now, tomorrow we're out of here. We're out of here because of college basketball on ESPN Radio. We are out of here on Thursday because of NFL football. On Friday, we got football action as well. Basketball coming up in the evening time. And then on Saturday, 9 a.m. 9 a.m. That means somebody served breakfast for me, Bill Cornwell, Dave Walsh. I don't know what you're going to do for breakfast back here in the studio, Gabriel. You're usually the odd man out when it comes to all this. Especially when it comes to, when we're at Roosters, we're doing the show live, nobody's bringing you food back. Dave Walsh, he shows up for an hour, he gets fed like a king. We can flip that if you like. Special thanks to Gabriel Sellers, who does not get fed properly when the show is out and actually gets taken care of. For him, I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for joining us. Easy for me to say. Good night.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.